My name is Caroline Poynton from Manchester Bury. I started to watch this, as you can see, about King Charles. So I've decided I'm going to record it because basically I am correct. I've written some songs today, last night, about King Charles changing his faith to Islam. And I've been saying it for a long time, and some of this is his fault. Some of what's happening isn't just Tony Blair. Some of this is King Charles's fault. And to be quite honest with you, he needs to leave because he's poltergeist. He is the devil.
Father Calvin, it's always lovely to see you, and this is your first time on my channel. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. Well, look, I love the fact you just say things how it is. And I received a lot of flack for saying that I had been told off camera by someone, it wasn't you, I'll just say that clear, that they believed that King Charles was a Muslim. Now, I wanted to get your take on this because, like me, you are outspoken and you don't hold back, and you are definitely an opinion that I very much value.
Okay, well, thank you.
I like Father Calvin.
It's a hard one because I remember, I've got a quote here from the Grand Mufti, which has been going around since, I'm sure you've read this one already, but it's been going around since the 1960s. Did you know that Prince Charles has converted to Islam? Yes, he is a Muslim. I can't say more, but it happened in Turkey. Oh yes, he converted all right. When you get home, check on how often he travels to Turkey. You'll find that your king is a Muslim. That's the Grand Mufti of Cyprus. And since I've seen that quote, I've just been... but my eyes have been open, and I'm always worried about confirmation bias. So when I see that the king is having iftar
open the
events in the palace, or packing dates for Ramadan or Eid, or he's inviting people in to pray Muhammadan prayers into one of his palaces or castles,
so I
get suspicious. And so then I'm like, maybe he's doing this for every faith. Maybe when it comes to Easter, he'll have a massive celebration for Christianity too.
Which is going to be about 1980.
In fact, we get silence. And then you get the defenders of the defender of the faith who come out and say, well, actually, it's not up to him to have an Easter message. It's never been done before. And you look into it, you're like, no, he's been doing Easter messages since like 2018. It's a very common thing at this point. Interesting that he didn't do one this year, when he did celebrate Iftar, Eid, Ramadan.
And that's why people are getting very annoyed.
There's certainly been,
and people are getting confused.
Let's call it a fascination with Islam from King Charles prior to him being king, even when he was prince. Those photos of him in the full garb and the headscarves and the tea towels and the swords. He clearly fancies the Eastern traditions, which is fine to an extent. But when you are literally the defender of the faith, when your role is to be the supreme governor of the church of England, you should have a preference for one particular faith, and that should be our faith, the Christian faith. And so he shouldn't be ever able to be accused of universalism or pluralism. No one should ever say he sees all faiths as equal or has a preference for a foreign faith.
There is no all faith. There is no faith.
He's a Christian. And then if he wants to have some kind of fascination with other things after that, then that's his take.
It never kind of springs to my mind that the late Queen ever diluted her faith. I always remember her being very steadfast, very welcoming, always welcoming, and would understand and learn about others.
Your
there was never a question as to is the late Queen, was she a Muslim? That would never kind of gone through my mind.
Whatever.
Like you say,
can't be all
so much proof
and how come
that
then,
shows
if
that
that's
King
the case, if
Charles
he's
is
for all
not
faith,
defender of the faith, he simply
how come he doesn't do for the Jews then?
to Christianity.
How come he doesn't have millions of Jews packed into the Church of England as well?
From last year.
If he's
King
for all
Charles is
faith,
praised for hosting Ramadan meal
how come
and
it's just
LGBTQ
for Ramadan?
plus lecture at Windsor
I'm
Castle.
not being funny. What's the Jews in
Imagine
the
hosting
Church?
both of those things and thinking that that's okay. Like a Christian king should not have an LGBTQ plus lecture, because a Christian king should be saying, look, we love all people, including those who suffer with same-sex attraction. However, in our faith, we do not affirm people in that lifestyle of sin. Likewise, to be hosting Ramadan meals in Windsor Castle, you should be saying, look, we love all people, but we want you to come to Christ because that's the only way to have salvation. And we don't want you to be stuck worshipping
for all faiths.
But he's not. He's hosting these people as if their values are the same as his, or he supports them.
No, he supports their
He
values
confuses
because
people. To be a leader means you have to be truthful, You have to have conviction, you have to have courage.
And he hasn't got
and
any of
that means sometimes you have to be seen as not nice. People will dislike the things that you say because you're doing them out of truth and out of love. If you only affirm people where they are, you're not leading people, you're following them.
See, I love the gays, so I'm maybe a bit hypocritical when I kind of look at what King Charles is and isn't doing. I personally, there's been some elements that I've really liked King Charles. So I think inviting gay people in and talking about that, I think is brilliant. I was brought up by many gay people within my life. I draw the line on, people identifying as a blue-haired cat and this and that. It just gets utterly ridiculous. But I think when we are seeing King Charles invite 300 people of, let's say, another ideology into Windsor Castle, this is sending a very clear message. I've spoken to Muslims who have said this is a disaster. He has just given the Islamic ideology that royal stamp of approval. And you see, he's not doing it for Jews, he's not doing it for Christians. He barely got, what did we get, a shitty little graphic on X for Easter. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and it's a pattern that's building. So last year I resigned as a patron of the British Monarchist Society because on Ash Wednesday he didn't release any messages about Lent or Christian penance, almsgiving, prayer, or charity. He spoke about, again, Islam, and he was there in the palace with the Queen Consort packing dates, once again, for Ramadan or whatever it was that they were doing that time of year. But on a Christian ceremony, on a Christian holy day, he celebrates another faith and doesn't put out a message for us. Then that was the nail in the coffin for me. That was the point where I said, okay, I can no longer be associated with the British Monarchist Society whilst the British monarchy is no longer supporting our faith and
sorry about that then. But
prayer or charity.
It's so bad of him.
You say, because you're doing them out of truth and out of love. If you only affirm people where they are, you're not leading people, you're following them.
See, I love the gays, so I'm a bit hypocritical when I kind of look at what King Charles is and isn't doing. I personally, there's been some elements that I really liked King Charles. So I think inviting gay people in and talking about that, I think is brilliant. I was brought up by many gay people within my life. I draw the line on, people identifying as a blue-haired cat and this and that. It just gets utterly ridiculous. But I think when we are seeing King Charles invite 300 people of, let's say, another ideology into Windsor Castle, this is sending a very clear message. I've spoken to Muslims who have said this is a disaster. He has just given the Islamic ideology that royal stamp of approval. And you see, he's not doing it for Jews, he's not doing it for Christians. We barely got, what did we get, a shitty little graphic on X for Easter.
Not doing it for the Jews, disgusting.
And it's a pattern that's building. So last year I resigned as a patron of the British Monarchist Society because on Ash Wednesday he didn't release any messages about Lent or Christian penance, almsgiving, prayer or charity. He spoke about, again, Islam, and he was there in the palace with the Queen Consort packing dates, once again, for Ramadan or whatever it was that they were doing that time of year. But on a Christian ceremony, on a Christian holy day, he celebrates another faith and doesn't put out a message for us.
That is what it's in the Bible about.
That was the point where I said, okay, I can no longer be associated with the British Monarchist Society whilst the British monarch is no longer supporting our faith and defending it. It's a great shame, it really is, because the whole purpose of the monarch is to be the figurehead not just of the nation but of the nation state and the nation church, the national church, the church of England. It's named that for a purpose. It's not just a church that happens to be in England, it's the church of the English people. It belongs to us, and he, as the person who is supposed to serve us, belongs to us too. And you mentioned the great late Queen Elizabeth II. She understood this. I think from her 21st birthday speech, where she said she would dedicate her life to the service of the British people under the Christian faith, I truly believe that she tried her best to do that. As Christians, we recognise that we're all fallen, we're all sinners, none of us are perfect. We make mistakes, we make things wrong. But it's about picking ourselves back up, picking up our crosses again
really
and trying to repent of our sin and trying to do it no more. I believe that she tried to do that in her leadership style. When she died, we had one of the greatest Christian witnesses in human history, in that millions and millions, tens of millions of people tuned in to watch her funeral, which was an explicitly Christian service,
probably would
and
have
it
come
was
out
a
and
Christian
spoke
witness
to
that
the
most people weren't
people,
in experience
everybody,
otherwise. You know,
the whole
English
country. I'm
expression
going to
of the
say she
Catholic
wouldn't be just
faith in
speaking to
that
the
old
one
language tradition is
majority,
beautiful. From the
one
hymns
set
and
of
the music
people.
to the gowns and the old cathedrals, as well as, of course, the old language that we use during those services. Like, all of it comes together to be reverential, to recognise a living God. But not only that, the sacraments, the service itself, it is a sacramental, not just the coronation, but also the funeral. And you'll see that when Her Majesty the Queen died, her orb and her sceptre were placed on the altar. So the altar is where you offer a sacrifice to God, right? And usually on a Sunday, the sacrifice is of our living selves, to be a living sacrifice, but also the sacrifice of Christ, the Son, to the Father in Holy Communion.
But I must believe in
her
God.
funeral, the orb and the sceptre were placed on the altar as signs of her worldly power, her worldly authority, and of course the orb being the sign of global authority, because as the empress, as well as the queen of the British Empire, she had that worldly authority. But they were placed back on the altar to say, these are no longer hers, these no longer belong to any person, they're given back to the person from which they came, which is our Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ. All authority on earth is from him. And so there's something really beautiful about recognising that none of us have authority that isn't permitted to us from the Father, and actually that Jesus Christ sits on the throne, the true throne, the King of Kings. And so although we do have kings or queens, they serve us, but they should be serving us on behalf of him. God. And when people forget that, we get lost. And that's where I think we are with King Charles III, unfortunately.
Do you think we will be, when the time happens, do you think we will be in safe hands with Prince William? Because I'm kind of a bit biased. I put my hope on Prince William.
I do as well.
Because I feel it's so utterly depressing, Father Calvin, the state of the UK at the moment. And you see Christian preachers arrested, you see halal meat being served in the orangery at Kensington Palace, you see a king allergic to a proper Easter message and so forth. So I just think, come on, William, come through for us.
Yeah, please, William. I hope he hasn't changed his
I am not getting my hopes up.
I hope he's going to come back
traditionally,
to
he has been quite apathetic,
I'm not being funny, but I hope King Charles
faith. But in recent months, he has started speaking out in favour of the church, just from a pragmatic standpoint rather than a faith standpoint. He recognises that when he becomes the King of England, which could be sooner than later, he will become the supreme head, supreme governor of the Church of England, and therefore part of his role is to govern or at least serve in some way the Christian Church of England. And so I think he's been dropping a bit of red meat here and there, saying things like,
he can probably never be
understands the responsibility.
Queen. Nobody can ever be the Queen.
The church has a place, and
he can do
that's not what I want to hear. I want to hear full
in
throttle. I am Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I will serve on behalf of Him in my land. I will serve Him, and I will serve people according to Christian values. I don't want someone who can say, yeah, Christianity's all right. I don't mind it. I want someone who's going to be like, yes, I'm a Christian, I believe it to be the truth, I believe Jesus Christ to be the way, the truth, and the life, and I will govern accordingly. Because if he doesn't say that, I don't know what he really believes. And it's probably some watered down, nothingness.
I mean, I think the bar set so low, Father Calvin, that when he released that statement by his spokesperson, I was giddy, because obviously King Charles, because I think as well, there's so much, there's so many people resting on this. We want our constitution, Christian country to be
and starts putting it on the Church of England.
Left, right and centre, everything's getting eroded away from us, and then we're just bullied.
I was going to say, I'm bringing the people back to the church. People will start going back to their churches around the country.
And I don't think everyone completely understands that nature abhors a vacuum. If you take something else will fill its place always. There is no neutral, there's no kind of politically empty. That doesn't exist, and so if we're not a Christian country, we'll become something else, and that probably will be secular liberalism, because secular liberalism doesn't stand up by itself. It has no real belief structure other than believing against things, and so what will fill its place will quite clearly be Islam, which is the strongest growing faith and the fastest growing faith in our country. And so the question we should be asking is not, do we want to be a Christian country or a liberal country? It should be, do we want to be a Christian country or become an Islamic country?
No, we have to stay a Christian
really
country.
The options
Excuse
available.
me, we've never
obviously
been a
from my
Muslim
point of
country.
view,
Never
obvious,
become a
I
Muslim
think
country.
Christianity is the
care.
truth. But even people
We
that
are Christian country. We've been a
less
Christian
sure
country
of
for
that
God knows how
objective
many
truth
thousands
can
of years.
surely see
Over 1,000
that it is
years we've been
far
a Christian
better for our
country.
country to
2,000
remain
odd
Christian
years.
than it is to become Mohammedan.
Just because we've already got
Yeah,
records.
absolutely. I mean, look, if we go back in time,
roughly
when
1,500 years.
King Charles
of my
became
family.
the Prince of Wales at
So,
27, I believe it
They've got
was,
to
or
have been
sorry,
here
no,
before
at
then. I
27,
don't know
he
whether
set
their
up
cards
the
are for
Prince's
there.
Trust.
I'm going to say, but
That was the same year that where the
Right,
Muslim
hang on, what
Brotherhood
year? Sorry, that's
started
what I wanted
in
to
terms
say.
of
Sorry,
its
what I wanted to say.
infiltration. So
What
if
year?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, if we go back in time, when King Charles became the Prince of Wales at 27, I believe it was, or sorry, no, at 27, he set up the Prince's Trust. That was the same year where the Muslim Brotherhood started in terms of its infiltration. So we're 50 years into the 100-year Muslim Brotherhood plan. And if you go back and you look at how has King Charles overly amplified the Islamic ideology, how has he made interfaith, or really just focusing on Islam, the
it's not
focus
interfaith. There is no such thing as
50
interfaith.
years? It's
There is the faith. You cannot have
he is a
interfaith.
globalist, and I don't believe he's on our side, Father
Yeah,
Calvin.
he's
I
not.
really don't. I
He's
don't
not.
believe
He's the devil, love.
he is
Thank you, but he's
a
been
man of
bringing
honour, a
the
man that will
government.
uphold his duty.
He's
I feel that he has
Sidi
put us all in
Khan and
danger.
Icod, which is
How do you
Muslim.
feel you're sat in America and you're
He gives
obviously
Tony
able to
Blair
look in
a
through
fucking
both
Icod.
your,
Alright, he's
religious
English, but
side
it's
of
not the
yourself, but
point.
also just as a kind of a viewer.
And then
as
in
to the news
93,
and
he's
just what
telling
is
us
going
that
on.
we're not allowed to criticise
Yeah, it is interesting from that
extreme
perspective. In that
Islamists or
a fish
extreme
doesn't
Islam
recognise water
or whatever
because
it's
surrounded
about.
by it.
And then, he's saying we all
our
want to
perspective
get.
changes when
I
we
want to
remove
know what
ourselves from the
this get
situation.
is
So when I
about,
moved
King
over
Charles.
almost 2 years ago now, I did get a different,
From
I gained a
93.
different perspective on Britain, and it's fascinating to see my
So
friends and
50
family and
years,
loved ones.
it's
They're
in that
sort of
part.
getting some of that perspective
Yeah,
through me,
you're
but
right.
because people are in it,
I am getting
living
there.
it.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard,
am
it's more
getting there with
difficult.
the
And it
whole
is so
5
oppressive.
year
Every
of
time I
when he
look
might
back, I
have
just
changed
feel
his religion.
it feels oppressive.
I
It's
am
not just
thinking
small things that have been
79.
adding up over the years. I mean, one of the things, obviously you and I go on Dan Wootton's show quite a bit, and one of the things that Dan and I have often moaned about is the fact that you can't even buy a bottle of pop
before
or
he
a
got
bottle of
married
water
to
or a bottle
Princess
of anything
Diana.
without, the government don't trust you to take the lid off. To take the cap off by yourself, it's stuck to the bottle, and so you try to drink something with a bit of plastic sticking into your cheek or your nose.
That thing that goes around the bottle.
That level of nanny statism, it sounds silly as an
They've taken
example.
the fun out of everything.
And King Charles has taken the fun out of the royal family. He's taken the passion out
you're not a
of
free
that.
man in a free country.
And we're going on to
You're
the whole,
living in someone else's state,
and I've been
and
saying
you're
that
living according to
William,
their terms. And it's not, it's not that
please, God,
we're completely free of that in America either. They've just passed a bill this month that says that every car that's built from today onwards will have to have a kill switch built in, so the government can shut down your car at their own whim.
I wonder Harry's got
There's
away.
nanny statism is everywhere, all around the world. We have to fight against it because we are free people. We should be free people, especially in the West. It's one of the things that Christianity gave the West, or we used to call it Christendom, the idea that we have rights, and this idea of rights has been bastardized in modernity to mean whatever the UN tells us they think it means, or the government tells us they think it means. But the idea of rights is things that are inherently ours from God, gifts from God. Like the right to life is ours because we're made in the image of and likeness of God. The right to free speech is ours because we're supposed to go forth and proclaim the gospel to all nations. Like there are things that God commands us to do and not to do, but through those things we gain our rights from Him. And we've reached a point where we're electing people who forget that they are elected representatives. They're no longer representing us. They are governing over us and lording over us and telling us how to live our lives. And it's like, what are we going to do about that?
That's what I mean. These clowns
He's
work for us.
over us and telling us how to live our lives.
They all need their P45s. I think
Yes.
dissolve the lot. But
it's
corrupt to the core. It really
But that's the point, Lauren. We could dissolve, the king could dissolve Parliament tomorrow if he wants to. He still does not have that authority. Like, he has very little authority these days, but one thing he can do is dissolve Parliament. And then he becomes, until the next Parliament, an absolute monarch. Like, if we had a good Christian king, we could be hoping for something like that to reclaim our land, and to get rid of these horrible bills that have been pushed through for euthanasia and abortion, and let's kill all the vulnerable, let's kill anyone who can't speak for themselves, because everyone's a burden these days. And like, if we had a Christian king, he could do something about this stuff. But we have
with the people. Because if you've got a good king and the people are behind the king, and the people are going to be on the king's side and be pushing these things through.
Remember, we were all so much against Build Back Better over COVID. When we were asking the question, Build Back Better for whom? I didn't ask any governments to come together and collide around the world to build my country back in a different way. I want my country to be the way I've always known it to be. And it's a shame that it isn't. But who elected these people in the WEF? Well, nobody. A lot of them are just kind of elites and globalists that come together. Some of them are elected representatives from other countries that come together and connive amongst themselves. But for the king to be there launching the Build Back Better program shows that he's not putting first of all, he's not putting his faith first, but secondly, he's not putting his country first, because the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I can speak firsthand, is all about conglomerations coming together, big tech, big pharma, big you name it, they're all there lobbying these people who want to get rich and powerful and actually don't have many principles of their own and just want to ride the latest wave, whether that's climate crisis or COVID pandemic stuff. They're not unthinking people here for themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, it's there we are, the 99%ers. We're working donkeys, aren't we? Get up at 7, pay our taxes. And these clowns are just at the web, drinking champagne, probably all laughing about these silly things they're putting in place. It used to be a conspiracy theory that the world is run by Satanists, but the proof is here. I don't see how anyone can deny it.
It's run by the fucking devil.
Yes, it is. Again, it comes back to what do we govern ourselves according to. People often say,
King Charles, if I have this game, we've got fucking King Charles,
what do you mean by that? Because politics are literally it's the policies we put together to govern our lives. It's how we run our society, how we shape our society, how we run our country.
And it's like, some hope.
We can choose to govern our lands according to Christian moral values, a Christian moral compass, or we can use another moral compass. But we can't just not use a moral compass. We always govern according to some set of morality. And so every Christian should be voting for Christians. And if there's no Christian to vote for, we should be standing for election or running for office, as they say out here. Now, every Christian should be actively involved in politics. The idea that we should be stepping out of it means we should leave it to the enemy. Do we want the enemy governing over us? Of course we don't. And from a Christian perspective, I would say the enemy is Satan. But from a secular perspective, you can say the enemy is the raving, hardcore leftist. People who hate you, hate your country, they hate the free market, hate Christian values. These are people that are going to get into office if we don't vote, if we don't stand. Like, why would you not want Christians involved in politics?
Father Calvin, I was mortified that I didn't realise I had a few lefty friends. Don't worry, they've gone now. I know, it was awful. But you're so right when you say about Christian values, because even people I know that aren't religious, like Liam Tufts, he's adamant he would fight, and I don't mean, with his bare knuckles, but he would fight for Christian values, because I got trolled recently and someone said, oh, another religious conversation. I said, well, look, Poppet, I don't want my children going to school and the burqa being normalised. I don't want my children eating halal. I don't want my children learning about other faiths above Christianity. Because you can take for granted how much protection we're given from it being a constitutionally Christian country, and I think we take for granted all these things we love, and now they're just like evaporating, and we're being gaslit that we have to eat halal meat. Or children are going on visits to mosques and then being taught how to pray.
You shouldn't even be allowed the mosque inside the church.
What is your thought on the full face-covering burqa in Western democracy?
It should not.
It should be banned. Plainly. But I would also get rid of the exemption
they've got rid of
halal meats as
people
well,
on
because
community centres
is illegal in Great Britain.
Yeah,
but there are two exceptions for it. One is for kosher, the other is for halal. Why are we giving
people
religious exemptions for something that is supposed to be illegal due to reasons of cruelty? It makes no sense. You can't be cruel if it's your religion. No. If we're not
maybe
country,
do something
cruel
conservative while we're there.
without studying it first, then everyone should follow that rule.
I
And
despise
this multi-tiered legal system that we seem to have these days, where if you're Mohammedan, you get one approach, but if you're anyone else, you get another approach. It shouldn't work that way.
But I'm not interested in that. They don't like anything.
Equal under the eyes of the
They
law.
don't like any football. They don't like music.
So
They don't
yes,
like football.
burgers banned, niqabs banned,
halal
food banned. You know, before
what do they
I
like?
was a school teacher, I was an educator, and I worked in.
You would be the best teacher. Like I would
Even
love
God
it if you
created
were.
wine and bread and water. Even God created some wine for
They did
people.
listen, they did really well for
Fucking
themselves.
hell.
But one of the first schools I worked in, they used to do decent food, and so I went in. I mean, teachers often are there very early and very late, and I was there very early, so I went down to get breakfast
Yeah, I skipped
before the day
college
started.
you know.
And they said they were doing
Colleges
English
were better than
breakfasts
school.
that day. Oh, great! I love an English breakfast. The best breakfast in the world, by the way. And I got an English breakfast. It was baked beans, quite right and proper, hash browns, toast,
because the school food was
and I think they may have had egg.
College when you could
No,
that's not English breakfast.
Being a grown
So some key things missing there to make it English breakfast: sausage and bacon.
Bacon.
And so I inquired to the management as to why there were no sausage or bacon.
Because of
And they said,
halal.
"Oh, all of our meals are halal." I said, "Excuse me, what?"
Yeah. And that's
This
in
is
Charles.
a school in England, not
Yes, and
Saudi
that's in
Arabia, not
Charles.
Qatar, not Iraq or
Because he's
Iran.
changed
This
his
is
religion.
England, for goodness sake, and an English breakfast
And
needs
he's not,
something,
he
especially
basically
in
told
England.
us we're not
I
allowed
want
to
my bacon, I want my sausage.
criticize.
Now, they didn't even try
It's
and lie, covering up and
extreme
give you turkey
fucking
bacon
Islam.
or chicken
They'll have
sausages. They just didn't
criticised
do it.
according to
And so
King Charles.
they
King Charles, he
changed
wouldn't say
a
that.
very important element of our
And then
culture,
from there,
which
right,
is
it's
our
gone to the
food.
government and
That's
gone
any
into the
culture.
fucking...
And so, by changing it,
there's
they're
all
trying to
this stuff.
change our culture.
Yeah.
The children should not be being fed halal without being told it's halal. I mean, they should be being fed halal in the first place, but just to have that as the only option. And so I said, well, why is this the only option? Not everyone that comes to school is Mohammedan. It wasn't in a
Because
school.
there's no white
without,
children in the school, mate.
Some Muslim kids.
Let me tell you that one where I just got watching. There's not a white person on that road.
You're
Mohammedan
offending
kid-
me.
Sure, exactly, they don't care about that. But if you're a Mohammedan,
Oh, I think there
and you
was
send your
one
children to an English
white
school,
guy and
you should
he
either
was
teach your
or
children
something, but that's
to
about it.
integrate and
It's not
assimilate
one
and
white
do what
person
English
walking
do,
down the
or
road.
teach them, look, you might have to make some sacrifices
Well,
because we have
definitely
a
not
belief
English,
structure.
they might
This
be
is what
white, but
beliefs
they're not
are.
English.
You make sacrifices. If my
As soon
kids
as
were
they talk, they
going,
don't
I mean,
speak
I
English.
wouldn't live in a Mohammedan
Well,
country,
let
but
me
if I
tell ya.
did live in a Mohammedan country and I had kids and I was sending them to school, I'd be like, look, these people do different things to what we do,
I
but we
feel
don't
this
believe what they
family
believe.
do.
So you're
I
going to
don't
have
go
to
sit in the
unfortunately make some
garden no more.
sacrifices,
I
and that
don't
means
sit in
you
the
can't
garden in
eat
the
this, and you
garden
can't do
because they'll
that.
stare at you.
That's good parenting. That's what parents should be
They're not
expected
very,
to do.
some of them are not
But to
nice.
change the
Some of
entire
them will say
policy of the
hello,
school so
and I
that
do try my
every
best
kid,
to say
including
hello,
the Jews, including the
good
Christians,
afternoon,
including the
or-
Sikhs and the Hindus
and-
and the Buddhists,
no,
they
you
all
know.
had to go without an English breakfast
You know,
because
I
of
always
a
try my
number
best
of
to
Mohammedan
live
kids
and
that were there and
walk
the
past
school
them
didn't want to
in the
offend them.
morning,
It's back to
I
front.
go, good
It's
afternoon,
it's
good boy.
ridiculous. I've actually given up eating meat now. It's been a month because of the whole halal
I haven't
thing.
given up eating.
It's so
But I
hard
don't buy
for
the
women
bananas
to
very
work
much.
out what is halal and what isn't. The vast majority of it is halal. But this has gone back decades and decades.
50 years
And
now.
King Charles in 2010 was serving halal lamb
Yeah.
in his duchy range.
Yeah.
We've all been eating meat that is halal without knowing. And I said publicly,
And King
why
Charles for
would
that.
I want
It's
to
in
eat
the
meat
Bible. It's a
that has
sin
had
to
the
the
ritual
Bible.
Alu Akbar? It doesn't make me
It's a sin to the
racist.
Bible.
Why
That
as a
is a
Christian
sin.
would anyone think that is acceptable?
He is treason.
They don't care.
Sin
So
and
I thought, well, you're not having
treason.
my money then.
The
I will
country,
make an
the Bible
exception
and
to
the law.
eat a sausage sandwich and a bacon sandwich and
That
full
is
English.
serious.
Um,
That is
and I
that
will go to
should be
McDonald's
taken
for a sausage and
seriously.
egg McMuffin. I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore
I
vegetarian.
don't think
This is
it's a laughing
the
matter
country
doing what
has
he's
gone
done.
to pot
Yeah,
now.
I don't think it's a laughing
so
matter. I think it's
the fact,
serious.
you
I
can't
wish we had the
just
days
say
where
the
we
obvious,
chopped his
because
fucking
that's
head
what
off,
it is.
right?
It's the obvious. Why would Christians or Sikhs or anyone else
And
want
it's
to
a
eat halal
fucking
meat?
pedo
You
at
just
that
wouldn't.
one.
You've raised a good
He's
point.
married his cousin. Yeah, cousin married his King Charles and her.
It may be
Killed Princess Diana and then he married her. His cousin.
Scriptures not to eat
Keeping
food
the family
sacrificed to
line.
other gods.
So
Because it's quite self-obvious.
And they're the ones that are trying to do William and Harry.
And so to be forcing that on people, and you're quite right that it's difficult to find meat that isn't halal.
She was a
because
nasty
it's never
bitch, that
labelled.
fucking
And if it is labelled,
Camilla,
it's
what she
very
calls
poorly
the
labelled. It's not like a great big halal sticker on
She's
front.
not
It's kind of like you've got to
fucking
investigate
queen.
where this
I
meat
don't
comes
look
from.
at her like
You shouldn't have
queen.
to in an English country,
Resemble
a
the
Christian
queen.
country.
I
It's
can't stand
insane
her,
that
mate.
we're
I'm
allowed
going
this
to
to
say
happen.
insane about I
Because
just can't
Mohammedans
stand
aren't the
her.
majority. Well, they are in some cities, unfortunately. But even if they were, like, we should be catering to ourselves first, and if we're inviting other people in, we encourage them to join us. We don't take on what they have.
Probably.
And
I sound
so
like I'm a
what are
ball
we
for the
doing?
Queen.
What are we doing as a people?
I'm really,
It's
I'm not.
stupid.
But the way we've got
My mum
the
bought
King
some
and the Queen
sweets for the kids
probably
recently,
sounds
and
like
at
a
10
hammer
o'clock
for
every
the
night I
Queen.
get a
At
bit.
least
My husband calls me
I can
Hetty the
see what
Hoover
the
and I
Queen's
start,
done
you know,
to what
sniffing.
these two are doing. And
So
that
I went to the
Camilla,
drawer and I
I
thought,
can't stand
brilliant.
her.
What?
Mm.
It said
No,
halal
I can't
on them.
wait.
I thought, you
Did
are?
she think she'd
Sweets.
take it over?
Halal. I said, they're going to the
King
bin.
Charles
I know
fucking
Hetty
flop.
wants a little bit of sugar, but
Fucking
Hetty has
not.
got, you know,
It's William.
a strict list of what she will and won't eat. There's so many things that are
And then
halal
we've
now.
got Keir
Nappies for
Starmer, the
children,
Labour
crisps.
Party, trying to squash the royal
Yeah.
family.
What makes a nappy halal?
I have no idea. But yeah, this is where we
What
are.
makes a
When
nappy
you mention the
halal?
king, British lamb is the best lamb in the world. I don't care what the New Zealanders say. We have the best lamb in
Well,
the
well,
world.
then
And
they're
it should be
slaughtering
more
them like
British
fuck
lamb. It
knows
should
what,
never
mate.
ever be killed in the name of Allah. It should
No.
never be prayed over
No.
by people who
It's
follow
not
Peter
allowed.
Warmonger.
We
It
are a
should be
fucking
just
Christian
truthful
country.
with British
Singing
lamb. It
the
doesn't
Bible,
need to be
singing
religious,
God.
but it can be
It's
at
singing
Easter
Jesus,
when we eat
man.
lamb traditionally.
It really is.
Well, we couldn't eat lamb this year. My mum
It's a
hadn't
sin.
checked. Well, everyone else did, but
What King
she hadn't
Charles
checked,
done
and it
is
was
sing
New
the
Zealand
Bible.
lamb, and I've done a lot of
Treason.
research into it. And actually, the New Zealand kind of farming and slaughterhouses that got infiltrated decades and decades ago to become halal. And so Easter Sunday, no lamb for me. I mean, like I say, I'm not a strict vegetarian.
Right.
I like to
You
do
can get someone that
But even that, Lauren, even that's problematic.
Well, I'm going
It's
to
so
have to ask the
bogus.
market.
Why are we
because I get
selling
my food
Kiwi
off the
lamb in
market.
Britain when we have literally the best lamb in the world? Well,
Yeah.
Welsh lamb, there's nothing greater.
Yeah.
Why do we even have Kiwi lamb? I don't understand that to begin with. And the fact that it's all been infiltrated by Mohammedans and now prayed over for a demon and it's all halal, it's one insane thing
No,
after
it's not
another.
just saying that it's breaking the law.
What do you think the future looks like if
Sin in
we
the
sit
Bible.
down
Sin in
in
the
one
Bible is like
year?
breaking the law.
What kind of conversation do you think we will be having when we
It's
look
death.
at everything in the
Sin in the
UK
Bible is
from
death.
the way the king has neglected
death
the faith to
It's
Keir
the devil.
Starmer and the
And
plot
poltergeist.
to,
Keir Starmer,
I
the
believe,
king.
put us at risk.
Yeah,
and
the
and
king
take away our
and Keir Starmer.
constitution,
There we go,
our
both of them
constitutional
together.
Christian country.
Yes,
and the
so I
values
am
that-
correct.
that
I
are
will
what
be
we-
telling her any
and
day.
don't
I be
know.
telling
We
you
don't
I'm
have
wrong.
anywhere else to
And
go.
there's no evidence.
Yeah. Quite simply,
We have got
I
no.
think
We
it
have.
depends
We think
on
we've got
British
nowhere
people.
else to go. We're going to have to hope
the
to God
scriptures teach us
and
that
get Rupert Lewis to
when we
be
stop
Prime
praying,
Minister.
God hands us
I'm
over
going to
to
say,
our
let's hope
lusts.
to God
So he hands us
that
over to our
King
desires,
Charles
and
fucked
that
off
means our
soon,
dark
quickly,
thoughts, our sins. He
and
hands us
please let
over.
William
The
come
scriptures
in.
also teach us
And
that
let's hope
in these
to God
situations
that-
we'll be ruled
Let-
over by
Let
foreigners.
me hope to
And
God
it
that
seems that that's what's happening.
the thing
Because
of
we as a people have stopped
I
praying.
was going to say
The average church attendance in the
Rupert
UK
Lowe
is 25. It may have gone
being
down
Prime
since that
Minister
last
uncorrupted.
quota. So people
Let's
are
hope
praying,
that will save
and what they are doing
William,
is evil.
and
we
he
have
will
had,
praise that
and
with
this
the
is all of the
government,
West, but
with an
in fact
uncorrupted
all of the world at the
government,
moment.
praise that and
Through
become the
abortion, we've
best
killed
king
off
we've
more
ever had.
babies since the
That's just-
1970s
that's
than
what
we've killed
happened,
any single human being in war, pestilence, plague and famine combined in the whole of our recorded history. Like, we're killing off the innocent at such a...
That's King Charles's fault because, like I said, he's the devil.
And what they are doing is evil. We have had, and this is all of the West, but in fact all of the world at the moment, through abortion we've killed off more babies since the 1970s than we've killed any
That's
single
their
human
fault.
being in
Their fault
war,
is right.
pestilence, plague and famine combined in the whole of our recorded history. Like, we're killing off the innocent at such a rapid rate that why wouldn't God hand us over to our desires and hand us over to our lusts? We're not worshipping him and giving him praise and thanks, and at the same time we're doing the work of the Dark Lord by killing off the most
Dark
innocent
Lord,
and vulnerable.
yeah,
Of course
the
we know what
devil.
the Bible teaches about those who would harm the innocent.
The
And
devil,
so
death.
we are cursing ourselves, essentially. And so the only way out of that is to reverse, is to repent of our sin. It's to stop pushing forth bills for liberalisation of abortion and euthanasia. It's to stop praying again. It's to go to church again. And people are looking for a saviour, but our Lord and Saviour has already been. Like, people are pinning their tails on Nigel Farage, who I think is a sellout, or Rupert Lowe, who I think is a good guy. But these are just people. There's only one way out of this mess, and that's returning our souls, our hearts, our minds, our very beings to Jesus Christ. If we do that, we have a chance, because he can work miracles. If we don't do that, I don't know if we can be saved. You know, our country is already dying. And I'm not being pessimistic. If nothing major changes anytime soon, it's already dead. By 2060, white Britons will be a minority in Britain, and therefore that will be a different country, right? You know, a country made up of its people, it is a group of people collectively with a culture, an ethnicity, a faith, a language, and if those things are gone, then what are we? Well, we're no longer Britain, we're no longer England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, unfortunately. By 2060, so that's within our lifetimes. And that's the current momentum is heading in that direction. The trajectory is going down unless we do something radical soon. And one of those things may be political. Politics may be part of the solution, but it's not really the whole of it. I hope that someone like Rupert Lowe can get into power and make a real difference. But again, that means people getting out and voting en masse against Christians, voting for Christians, rather than, I've always been Labour, I've always been Conservative, or Nigel Farage is my guy. It's like, why is he a guy? Anyway, politics may be part of it, but we need to get back to prayer as the main solution.
It definitely feels like there's intense spiritual warfare at the moment. It really feels so heavy in the UK, and I think we might need to go there's dark forces, you know. It's hard to summarise that and put it into words, because the feeling is very real. So many people can feel it, and these are people that may not have even been spiritual or religious before. And so, like you say, you know, we are really, really up against it. Some days I think we're too late, and then other days I think, shut up, Lauren. I think this is no, we're not too late. You know, there is still hope. I'm
the same. It's horrible. I love my country. I really do. It's horrible to see it just jumping head first into a black chasm, and there's so little that we can do about it. Thank God for your show, and I'm doing my own way of contributing. But we are just two voices, right? Screaming out in the wilderness. Like, we need more people to stand up.
And I'm standing up and speaking.
There has to be a battle. I don't know what shape that battle will take, but there has to be something. We have to fight for our nation.
Let's just caveat this, so neither of us go to jail, Father Calvin. Well, you're safe, you're in America. Father Calvin doesn't mean a battle of, you know, actual fighting, do you, Father Calvin?
I don't mean we'll have to actually fight, but we may have to actually fight in some way, shape or form. I'm not inciting violence at all. I don't think violence is the answer, but we have to find a way of metaphorically fighting back. You know, we have for however long now since Tony Blair started this mass migration project, and then Boris Johnson really upped it. We've had years and years, decades now of importing people who hate us, who hate our way of life, who hate our faith, who hate our language, who hate everything about us, watch the places. We've had decades of that. And no one's been willing, there's been no political will to do anything about it. And unless we do something about it, our country will literally die. And so it's a case of what are we going to do about it? And of course my first stance is always we must return to prayer. And then prayers for the nation for 2 years straight, every Sunday evening. And I hope that people, I know many people joined that, but I hope people took lessons from that and decided we all need to do that. Encourage each other, go to church. Even if it's just on a Sunday, it's like 1 day a week. It's like 1 hour a week, like to give to the hope and idea that our Christian country can survive, that it is greater than us, and it has been around for over 1,000 years. It's a testament to Christendom, and it can only last if it returns to Christ.
I always say to people, you can't moan. Moaning on X doesn't do anything. You've got to peacefully, you know, exercise your democratic right or get into church. I had this conversation with my mum. I said, right, we've got to stop moaning, Mum, and actually go and support our church more, instead of just moaning left, right, and centre because people are the first to go, oh, it's become a mosque. It's like, well, when did you last go, to the church? So I think you're absolutely right, and you've got loads going on as well that people can follow you and check out as well. And we are very jealous, many of us, that you're in America where you have freedom of speech and no Kistama.
Ah, it's wonderful. The land of the free, the home of the brave. Free speech is so underrated. I wish we had the Constitution, a written, codified Constitution in Britain with the First and Second Amendments, actually. We have free speech and then the right to bear arms. The fact that in Britain at the moment, if you say you need a weapon for self-defence, you're going to get put on some watch list. Is getting crazy because you have no way of defending yourself against other people or against the state. But I am only here on a temporary visa, which does run out at the end of next year, so please pray for me in that regard, in that who knows where I'll be in just over a year's time. But this goes back to your point that we have nowhere else. Like maybe we can escape to a different country for a time, or maybe people can go away and do other things. But our country matters, and we have to do something about it. And you're quite right that we can't just moan our way into oblivion. We have to be active. We can no longer afford to be passive because they aren't. The enemy is not.
I can't force anybody to do anything. Me, I told my agent friends to vote for it. Look, you can vote for the fucking Green Party and whatever, right? At the end of the day, you're just not going to get anywhere with the Green Party. They're just going to fuck. They're just being, they're worse than fucking Reform. But it is a bit, I'm glad I've watched that. That was amazing, that what I've watched about King Charles. Yes! King Charles, yes. Why is it now when I've written about King Charles and all of a sudden it's here now?
Weekly blog. This week we saw what I believe was a momentous moment for our nation. A young boy, only 9 years old, refused to bow the knee in a mosque when his Boy Scouts troop went on an excursion to experience Muslim prayer. His courage and defiance has inspired millions of ordinary Brits on social media
I think I have heard
with the relentless expansion of Islam in our nation.
Well, we're not Islam,
and so I want to address this particularly difficult topic and tie it into other news stories from this week's news cycle in this weekly episode of The Vlog.
And change the demographic of the church and change the demographic of the law with Tony Blair.
Islam is far more than merely
and some
a
of
false
this isn't even
religious
actually
system.
Starmer's fault.
It is a comprehensive, expansionistic political worldview which is ruthlessly capable of expanding, dividing and conquering host nations. Winston Churchill said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Wise words from the greatest Prime Minister in our history. For over 1400 years, Islam pushed its borders at the tip of the sword, or through subversive migration
that's about
into
my
host
family's time,
what often
1,400
begins
years.
with a small minority who claim victimhood status, crying discrimination, rapidly grows through polygamous birth rate expansion and increased migration into the beachhead established by the initial waves of Mohammedan migrants.
And we're not a migrant.
Muslims are always first and foremost loyal to the Ummah, the international community of Islam across borders.
And we would be if it wasn't for the king and the government. Because I went, my mum Catholic, my mum used to go to church.
Warlord prophet Muhammad.
And we used to go to Sunday school and church.
Sooner or later, once the Muslims gain a large enough number in their host nation, they will begin to flex their muscles socially and politically, testing the boundaries of acceptable behaviour, with public displays of Islamic worship becoming common, building countless mosques and masjids, and attempting to introduce Sharia law. We saw this happen in Iran in the 1970s, before the revolution. None of this is new. The pattern has repeated itself since the days of the false prophet Muhammad and his false god Allah,
and that's
when he
King
began
Charles's
peddling
fault.
their reworked
And that's why you're saying we owe the Muslims a great deal. He does.
Time again, Islam goes through cycles of militaristic expansionism and then a slow group of migration into other cultures. Historian, Christian scholar and social commentator Raymond Ibrahim writes in his excellent book, Defenders of the West, Christian heroes who stood against Islam. And I quote, "Between especially the 7th and 17th centuries, an array of Muslim peoples beginning with the Arabs and Berbers, ending with the Turks and Tartars, waged one devastating jihad after another on Christendom. As a result, 3/4 of the original Christian world, including the older, richer and more developed regions, namely the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia Minor, which is now known as
King
Turkey,
Charles has got to do with this as well with Africa, Nigeria and stuff. It's his fault.
Seen as the
royal
final
family's fault
bastion
because
of
his
Christianity,
dad
the final
came from Cyprus
infidel
and he was
holdout,
born in Germany.
Muslims continually bombarded Europe. End quote. Now, why on earth would we suddenly think that the aspirations of Islam have changed in our day and age? They may have changed their tactics since the fall of the Ottoman Empire at the end of World War I, and being crushed in the 2000s by Western military superiority.
Well, there's some things in that Quran I'm reading, and it's the same as some things in the Bible, the commandments and things, more of them. I'm not saying it's all, I'm going to say it's not all the same.
Muhammad as their moral exemplar,
there's a couple of things that
example of a human being for all Muslims to emulate. But the problem with this is, the false prophet was an immensely immoral man. The Quran and the Hadiths record deplorable acts that the false prophet engaged in or ordered to be carried out on his behalf by his followers. For example, in the Hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari 5134, the Prophet married Aisha when she was just 6 years old, and he consummated this marriage when she was 9
and
years
why
old.
they, well, this is what
Therefore, the particular
BBC
prophet
in
of
that meeting,
Islam
but
had
King
sexual
John got lost
intercourse
once
with a
before.
9-year-old girl and endorsed child marriage.
Yeah, but
This is
he's the
moral
one that's
exemplar the
fucking
Muslims
ripping
say they should
himself
copy.
in it.
Some more.
He's a
Quran
fucking
33,
pedo, that's why.
26-27 shows that Muhammad and his army slaughtered 6,000 to 9,000 Jews and then took their women and children as slaves, and I quote, "And he brought down those who supported them among the people from the scripture,
And the black
the Jews,
people.
from their forces,
And
cast
black,
terror
let's
in their
just say
hearts.
the African black
Some of
people,
you
yeah.
killed, some of you killed,
And the
some of
African
you
black
took
people,
captive.
and the white
Police sources
English people,
confirm
the white
this event
fucking
in all of its
Christian,
grueling brutality.
between English and
Muhammad's
Europeans,
adopted
yeah?
son, Zayed,
So they've
divorced his
stoned
own
quite
wife,
a lot of
Zaynab,
different
who was
people, haven't
Muhammad's
they?
cousin, so that Muhammad could then marry her. The sources are from Quran.
And they've stolen my little girl to
33,
sell her
37.
off.
Muhammad and
Just some whatever,
by
King
extension,
Charles,
Islam
I'm
and
fucking
Muslims
coming for that
endorses
bastard.
cousin marriage.
Yeah,
and
I am.
unbiblical,
Hope the guy Charles
unholy
is going to
divorce
come for him.
practices. Quran 4:24, 23, 5, 6, and 7:29, 23 show that believers are to guard chastity, except with slaves and wives of captives. Muhammad had dozens of concubines. Polygamy is permitted in Islam for up to 4 wives. Quran 4:3, but Muhammad had an exemption to this rule and had many more wives. Quran 9:29 the fighting and
no, about the Bible,
killing
mate, but
of Christians and Jews unless they either convert to Islam
BBC,
or
yeah.
pay
I'll have to
the
find out
infamous jizya tax.
This is about the king,
Now I
it's
could
about
go on at length with
whatever.
many more quotes from the Hadiths and even the Quran itself, which I have
They
read
carry in the army little
English.
girls
But for the
in
sake of
Afghan.
expediency, I'll stop there
I
because
don't
I'd
get
like to
it.
remain sane.
I mean,
The
why
reality
BBC
for
just recording?
Christians,
Why are they
Christians
not
and
making
Jews
a
who
thing
find
that we
themselves
bring them
living
little
in
girls into
Muslim-majority
England
countries today
so that it has to be
is
sold
horrifying.
out?
Many of which were once
Oh
Christian
yeah,
nations, such as
sorry,
Egypt,
yeah, we've got
Lebanon,
too
and
many
Syria.
illegal immigrants,
These believers
too
live
many
under
illegal
the
fucking
root
men
of oppression
that are
and
Muslim
ceaseless
or whatever.
persecution, where simply
I'm going to
believing
say
in
too
Jesus
many
Christ
fucking
or
murderers
in
because
the
of King
Bible
Charles,
or
mate,
attempting
yeah.
to go to church can result in a
Terrorists
death
because of
sentence.
King Charles.
But the naive
So we have no
and
now room
arbitrary
for these little
idiotic
girls.
liberals of
We
the
have no
Western
room
world
now for these
who
little
have
girls that need
abandoned
fucking homes.
Christianity, which
With
is the
people ain't
cornerstone
gonna
of
fucking
Western
abuse
civilization,
them.
and embrace the
And a fucking
vacuous
big grown man.
secularism of godless cultural Marxism, insist that all cultures and religions must be treated equally. In their zeal to establish a progressive utopia of multiculturalism, they have embraced Islam
And that's how the
as open arms,
multiculturalism should be
despite
brought
the clear
in.
fact that its
We should
core
be taking
teachings
them
and
little
its cultural
girls,
mindsets
mate,
are
into the
antithetical
country,
to
not into
Western
grown ass
civilization,
men and criminals
and
and
that the
everything
West
else. I
has
mean, come
repeatedly
on.
faced down
Yeah, what is
the
wrong with
relentless
the
threat of
world?
Islamic invasion
What is
for
wrong
over
with it?
1,000 years, but none of that matters.
That's not God.
Every so often,
I'm
a
trying to
flashpoint
say
event
God
will
will
occur
not
and will hit
harm
the
little
media or
girls.
social media.
God doesn't
For
harm
example,
little
as I
girls.
mentioned, the
God
young Scottish
protects
boy Who
children.
refused to bow
All
down
children
and
go
praise
under
Muhammad,
God's wing.
Muhammad prayed, while the
Women
rest of his
go under
followers
God's
went on
wing.
with the insidious
All women and
idiocracy
children
of
are
their
all
scout leaders,
meant to be
while
under
on a
God's
field
wing, which
trip
is
to a
God's
mosque.
protection.
Meanwhile, again this week in London, which is the capital of our great nation, now sadly led by the insufferable Sadiq Khan, electronic advertisement billboards presented Quran verses.
Yeah, but why is he going and not saving these little girls in fucking Afghan, eh? Why is Sadiq Khan not going and getting these little girls and bringing them to England? What? I'm going to say, mate, but he's flooding them with all this shit. But he ain't doing it for them little girls that have been slaved and sold to men in Afghanistan.
On social media felt that this was a show of dominance and intimidation. And that is not the only one.
And I'm not saying they're not Muslim children. I am not this and they're not, or whatever.
Football stadium
but I'm saying if their parents can't look after them, and the boys start talking grown-ass man, don't you think that, you know what, this charity stuff we meant to be doing, money we're meant to be doing.
Church work, my wife and children were terrified by a group of young Muslim men
shouldn't the BBC be supplying that food for them so they don't have to sell the children or something?
On the footpath to blast from their Bluetooth speakers the Adhan call to prayer. But these incidents are just the tip of the iceberg. Rupert Lowe's independent rape gang inquiry revealed earlier this year
speaking about Rupert Lowe,
even the priests. British underage girls were sex trafficked,
and so I've been made. I'm not on this list yet.
Traded between Muslim men in the UK like Pokemon cards, and some were even dragged off to Pakistan as slaves for 40 years.
And my little girl's been probably dragged over to Pakistan. How do I know?
It's made worse by the betrayal of our authorities. Yet our government, political elites will barely touch the issue because they know full well how deep the cover-up goes.
Yeah,
with
King
police,
Charles, mate, you got to
social services, members of parliament, and NHS workers all involved in turning a blind eye
all down
for
to the things we're not allowed to
participating in the suffering of these innocent children for fear of being labelled racist
extreme
or causing
Islamist
uprising
or
or
extreme
exposing the truth about the failed multicultural experiment that has been forced upon the British public without their mandate. Meanwhile, the establishment all fawn over Islam with yearly messages from the King, the Prime Minister, government departments, lauding Islam as a peaceful and essential component of British society, conveniently ignoring the cold, hard statistic. For example, since the year 2000, the large majority, that is, roughly 70-80% or higher, of terrorist attacks, plots and convictions in the United Kingdom have been carried out by Islamist
I've not seen them do that for the African people, the Nigerians.
Jihadist ideology, overwhelmingly represented by Muslim perpetrators seeking to terrorise the British public.
I'm going to say, yeah, mate, why is it just Islam, or why is it just the Muslims he has in the fucking Church of England?
Caseload. Meanwhile, Muslims
you don't see
make up
many
only
Christian white people in the
6.5%,
Church of
which is too
England
many in my
no more.
opinion, of
You
the
don't see
UK
any
population
Chinese, you
according
don't
to
see any
the 2021
Japanese,
census
you don't see
data.
any
But
black
Muslims
Nigerians
constitute
in there.
18%
I'm
of the
going to
prison
say, you
population.
don't see any Jews.
Countless small boats
We
land
just see
endlessly on our
Muslims in
shores,
there,
particularly on these
that's
warm, sunny days, containing mostly fighting-age young men from Muslim countries. And yet, if you dare to question any of this, if you dare to speak out against it, you are labelled a bigot,
How
a
is that being
racist,
racist?
an
We say what we're
Islamophobe.
seeing.
You may get a knock on the door from the Stasi police. You may be cancelled in your workplace.
And they already have been
Islamophobia is a
cancelled.
word made up to
all
scare
the
the critics
fucking
of
life.
Islam. Increasingly, Christian street preachers who have the guts to speak out against this false religion are arrested or even threatened on the street by Muslims with no action from police. For example, this week Pastor Stephen Clayton was just reported to the Charity Commission for Islamophobia, simply for holding to the biblical position that this is a Christian country and Islam is a false religion. John 14:6. Jesus says he alone is the way, the truth, and the life to the Father. Will that become hate speech in Britain in the 21st century? I think, despite how insane that sounds, it might be possible.
I am saying the
It is
basic
increasingly
King
common for
Charles
lawfare to be used like this to
so what
browbeat
I'm
critics
saying
of
about-
Islam into fearful submission. Christian Concern and the Christian
that's King
Institute
Charles's
and the Free Speech Union are run off their feet defending people who are being legally attacked for criticising the so-called religion of peace. We endure a two-tier justice system where a soft touch is seemingly deployed by the police and the judiciary against Islam, but the heavy hand of the law is brought down upon patriots and Christians who speak up. In fact, more people are sent to jail and charged with offences for social media comments in the United Kingdom than people are in Russia for similar offences. This week, we saw that the Henry Nowak murder charge could possibly be reduced to a manslaughter
but
charge.
I am not
And then we
that.
have the insult of the slap
not
on the
after
wrist of the
insult-
Manchester
no, I'm gonna say
airport
I've got
punch
to
who beat
insult
the living
anything
daylights out of a
myself.
female cop.
But that I am
These are just the
a
latest
white
in a long
English
line of
person.
humiliating injustices that the British
I am
people
not
must
a
endure
Muslim. I'm
at the
not born
hands
in a
of our
Muslim
Marxist
culture. I
globalist
am not
elites,
born in an
who
Arab
seem to
country.
have
I'm not
no
born
love
in
for our
an
nation
Islamic
or
country.
concern for our
So
well-being.
that is that.
GB
Okay?
News reported this week that the British
how
birth
can
rate
that
is
fit?
at its
How is that
all-time
fit
lowest
situation?
level ever, well
Yeah.
below the population replacement rate, with 33% of mothers being foreign-born. Pew Research suggests that the Muslim birth rate in the UK is 2.9%, compared to only 1.6% for native Brits.
That's because they fucked us up,
Meanwhile,
haven't they? Give us all the
abortion
COVID
rates
jabs
are at
and
their
everything.
highest levels since 1967, when the abominable practice was first legalized. Now you can get an abortion pill sent to you in the mail to kill your baby in the womb without the fuss of going to a doctor or a clinic.
Me personally, if I had
Professor
my
Matt Goodwin's
child,
study data
I
predicts
would
that by the
probably run
2060s,
away to
the
another
native
world.
Anglo-Celtic
I
peoples
would
of
go
the
to
United
fucking
Kingdom will be
Mars.
a minority in their own homeland.
So,
That is
or something
barely
because I want them
30
to be
years
brought up
away.
normal.
If your pastor is not calling out Islam, is not preaching that people need to come to Christ, and is not encouraging young Brits to get married and have lots and lots of babies, then your pastor is failing in his duty to encourage Christian people to be fruitful and multiply in these islands, because the Great Replacement is clearly no longer a theory. It's backed up by hard statistical data. You'd expect the churches of the United Kingdom to be more vocal about the frankly apocalyptic situation we are facing. But sadly, the secularism which has befallen most of our culture has infected the church as well. The vast majority of churches and church leaders, from the Church of England, the Methodist, the United Reformed Church, are spineless cowards. They have given up on faithful exegesis of the Bible, and they have opened the doors of their churches and cathedrals to pride